The arrival at the arena. The arena was built on a desert world where nothing lived except fire and sand. It stretched for miles, a circle of stone carved into the ground, big enough to hold armies. Every seat was filled, aliens of every shape and size gathered to watch the most feared event in the galaxy. The roars of excitement mixed with the low growl of the beast waiting below. Chained and furious, the apex beast, as the aliens called it, was not just an animal, it was a nightmare. Made real, it stood taller than a tank, with claws sharper than steel and eyes that burned like fire. For centuries, this creature had killed everything thrown against it. Warriors, machines, even entire squads of soldiers, none had survived. The aliens loved to watch. Not because of victory, but because of death, and today, they expected a new kind of death, the death of a human. Humans were new to the galactic stage. Most aliens thought they were weak, soft, and unprepared for the brutality of the wider universe. They looked like fragile creatures with no claws, no armor, no deadly fangs. The arena crowd laughed when they heard one human had agreed to step into the pit. Some thought it was a mistake. Others thought it was suicide. No one believed it was courage. The gates opened with a thunderous sound, and the human walked inside. He was not armored. He was not armed. He wore only simple clothes and a calm expression. His steps were slow but steady, each foot pressing into the sand like he had walked into places far more dangerous before. The aliens leaned forward, waiting to see fear, but his eyes showed none. Whispers spread through the crowd. Why is he not afraid? One alien hissed, "He is already dead, but he walks like he owns the place." Another said. Some laughed louder, mocking him. Others grew quiet, unsettled by his calmness. High above, alien officials sat in golden seats, warlords and leaders, who had seen thousands of warriors crushed by the beast. They too expected a quick death, but the humans' behavior stirred something they did not like: doubt. The ground shook, the beast roared, chains clattered as the monster fought against them, furious, hungry. The sound made even seasoned alien soldiers cover their ears, yet the human did not flinch. He only looked at the beast with steady eyes. He stopped at the center of the arena, the spotlight of suns burning above him, the silence of thousands. Pressed in as the crowd waited, the announcer, a towering alien with 6 arms, shouted across the arena, "Today, a human dares to stand before the apex beast. Witness the end of their species." The crowd roared, chanting, "Beast, beast, beast," their voices shaking the arena walls. But the human stood still, his breathing slow, his heartbeat steady. It was as if he heard none of them, as if the chaos around him did not exist. The beast roared again, straining against its chains. Drool dripped from its massive fangs, claws tearing into the stone floor. Every alien knew what came next: the release, the kill, the blood. But still, the humans' calm unsettled them. Some felt anger. Others felt confusion. A few even felt fear. Why would a fragile human walk into certain death without trembling? Why would he face the deadliest monster alive without a weapon? And why, in that moment, did the beast, even while chained, hesitate ever so slightly when the human looked at it? The guards prepared to unleash the creature. The crowd screamed for blood. The air burned with tension, and at the very heart of it, one human stood in silence. A storm waiting to break. That was the moment every alien in the arena would later remember. Not the roar of the beast, not the weight of the chains, but the quiet, steady gaze of a human who walked into death and did not blink. The arena that once echoed with laughter and mockery now held something else: suspense, unease, and the shadow of something greater. The stage was set, and the galaxy had no idea that its view of humans was about to change forever. Asterisk, the beast unleashed. The moment had come. The crowd's roar shook the walls of the arena. Guards with heavy armor pulled at the chains that held the apex beast, their bodies straining as the locks were undone one by one. Each clank of metal echoed like a death bell. The air grew hot, thick with the smell of dust and fear. Aliens leaned forward, some covering their eyes, others eager to watch blood spill. The last chain snapped free, and the ground trembled. The beast rose in its full height, muscles rippling under dark scales. A monster forged of fury and hunger. Its roar was so loud that even the sky seemed to shiver. The sound punched through the chest of every alien in the arena, making their hearts pound in terror. Even the strongest warlords flinched, for they had seen warriors die too quickly before. But the human did not flinch. He stood where he was, sand swirling around his feet, eyes locked on the beast. The monster noticed, its gaze narrowing, its body crouching low, ready to strike. Saliva dripped from its fangs, steam rising from its nostrils. The crowd screamed, "Kill him, part!" their voices wild with excitement. Then the beast charged. The ground split under its weight, claws tearing into stone like paper. Every alien felt their stomach twist, expecting the human to run, to scream, to beg for mercy. But the human only raised his hand slowly, calm as a whisper in the storm. The beast closed the distance in seconds, jaws wide enough to swallow him whole. Its roar was thunder, its speed terrifying. But just as the monster leapt, the human's calm hand stayed steady, palm open, reaching forward. The unthinkable happened. The beast stopped mid-strike, its claws inches from the human's chest. The arena went silent, no breath, no sound, only shock. The apex beast growled, its massive body shaking. But it did not strike. Instead, it tilted its head, confused, as if something inside it hesitated. The aliens could not understand. "This is impossible," a commander hissed. "No creature survives the beast's first charge," another cried. Yet the human stood untouched. His hand still stretched forward, slowly, with a movement so unnatural, it made the crowd gasp. The beast lowered its head, its burning eyes locked on the human's gaze. Every alien expected the bite, the end, but instead, the beast's nose touched the human's palm. The silence in the arena grew heavy. One alien dropped his drink, the sound echoing like thunder in the quiet. The apex beast, killer of thousands, had paused. It was not rage in its eyes now, but something else, something that looked like recognition. The human moved gently, stroking the beast's rough skin, each motion calm, steady, fearless. The beast growled low, not in anger but in a sound almost like contentment. The impossible was happening before their eyes. The galaxy's deadliest predator was acting like a tamed animal. The officials rose to their feet, their voices sharp with panic. "This must be a trick," one shouted. "No human can tame a beast. This is sorcery," another screamed. But when the guards scanned the human with energy detectors, the results showed nothing. No weapon, no shield, no hidden device. The truth was more terrifying. The human had done this with nothing but his presence, his will, his calm. The crowd began to shift, their laughter gone, replaced by whispers. Could humans control beasts? Are they more dangerous than we believed? The beast, once a symbol of unstoppable death, lowered itself fully to the ground, lying beside the human. Its chest rose and fell with heavy breaths, but its eyes stayed soft. It was not a monster anymore. It was a guardian, choosing its master. The human stood beside it, silent, yet powerful in a way no weapon could measure. Some aliens trembled with fear, others with anger. Warlords clenched their fists, their pride burning at the thought that a weak human had achieved what their armies could not. But a few in the crowd, the wise ones, felt something different. They felt awe, respect, and a dangerous thought whispering in their minds. Perhaps humans were not weak at all. The announcer's voice cracked as he tried to speak, his throat dry. "Behold, the human who stands before the beast," he said. Though even he could not believe the words, the crowd was no longer chanting for blood. They were silent, staring. As history rewrote itself before their eyes, the beast pressed its massive head against the human's shoulder, like a loyal hound waiting for command. The human only smiled faintly, A smile that carried no pride, no arrogance, just quiet understanding. The galaxy's deadliest creature had bent its will, and with that single act, the galaxy itself began to change. The impossible touch, the arena still trembled with silence. For the first time in its history, the apex beast had not killed. It stood still, chest heaving, its massive jaws only inches away from the human. The aliens could not breathe, their eyes wide with disbelief. This moment was something no warrior, no king, no empire had ever witnessed. The human stepped closer, his hand still stretched out. Calm and steady, every alien expected the end to come. Expected the beast to change its mind and strike, but instead, the human's palm pressed gently against the beast's head. The touch was soft, natural, as if you were greeting a friend. The apex beast, known across the stars as untamable, lowered itself further, almost bowing. Gasps echoed across the arena. Some aliens screamed, others covered their faces, not wanting to believe what they saw. "This cannot be," one warlord roared. "Even machines fail before that monster. How can a human touch it and live?" But no matter what they believed, the truth was clear before their eyes. The beast closed its eyes, a low rumble shaking its chest. It was not anger, it was not hunger. It was something the galaxy had never heard from the apex beast. It was peace. The human knelt slowly, his hand stroking the rough scales along the beast's neck. His movements carried no fear, no hesitation, only calm. The monster leaned into his touch like a creature that had found trust. The crowd began to murmur, some whispering about ancient legends. There were stories told in hushed voices that beasts only submitted to those with unbreakable spirit. Was this human such a being? The officials shouted orders, demanding the guards intervene. But the guards themselves froze, their hands shaking. Who among them could dare to approach the beast now? It no longer obeyed chains, it no longer feared weapons. It had chosen the human. The alien announcer stammered, his booming voice cracking. "Behold, a human lives." After touching the beast, his words carried shock, but also fear. For if one human could do this, what else could they do? The crowd erupted in chaos. Some shouted that it was a trick. Others demanded the human be killed immediately before he unleashed more unknown powers. But scattered among them were voices of awe, voices that whispered, "Perhaps humans are not weak. Perhaps they are something more." The beast shifted, its massive body lowering onto the sand. It lay beside the human like a guardian at rest. The human smiled faintly, not proud, not arrogant, just quietly calm. His hand rested gently on the beast's snout. It did not move, it did not growl, it only breathed. Steady and loyal, for the first time, the galaxy's deadliest predator looked like a companion. And for the first time, the human looked like more than just flesh and bone. He looked like something greater, something even the beast itself could respect. In the high seats, alien warlords argued with fury. "This changes everything," one hissed. "No empire can ignore this," another growled, "if humans could tame beasts. What armies could they command? What powers could they hold?" The human said nothing. He did not need to. His actions spoke louder than any words. Every alien in that arena, from the lowest servant to the highest general, felt the same chill. They had mocked humanity as weak. But here, before their eyes, one human had rewritten the laws of fear. The beast stretched its claws, the ground shaking, but it did not strike. It only leaned closer to the human, pressing its massive head into his chest. The crowd gasped again. The apex beast was not just calm now. It was showing affection, something no alien could even imagine. The silence broke into shouting. "This is dangerous," screamed one alien. "This is power beyond control," shouted another. But one voice rose above them all, a whisper from an old alien scholar who had lived long enough to see empires rise and fall. He said softly, "Perhaps the humans are the beasts we should fear, not the one in the arena." The crowd went silent once more, because deep inside they all knew The galaxy had just changed. Not because a beast was tamed, but because a human had proven that fear itself could bow before them. Panic and awe in the crowd. The arena was no longer filled with laughter. Where moments ago aliens cheered for blood, now there was only confusion and fear. The apex beast, the monster of nightmares, was lying calmly beside a human, its chest rising and falling like a loyal hound, its eyes soft instead of burning. The impossible scene spread through the crowd like fire through dry wood. Voices clashed. "This is sorcery," one alien shouted, his mandibles snapping in rage. "No creature resists the beast. No warrior has ever touched it and lived." Another alien, scales shining with sweat, leaned forward, whispering, "It is no trick. I saw it with my own eyes." The beast bows to him. The panic spread to the higher seats, where leaders and warlords sat in gold and steel. For them, this was not just a spectacle, it was a challenge to power itself. If one human could tame the beast, what could many humans do? The thought made their pride crumble and their fear grow. An insectoid commander slammed his clawed hand against the railing. "Kill him now, before this grows into something bigger." He roared, but none of the guards moved. They looked down at the sand, at the way the beast curled protectively around the human. If they stepped closer, they knew they would be torn apart. The human did not speak. He simply continued to stroke the beast's head, calm and steady. His silence was heavier than any speech. It told the crowd one thing clearly: he was not afraid. And that truth shook them more than the beast's roar ever could. Some in the crowd felt awe. A small alien child tugged at her mother's arm, whispering, "Look, the beast likes him." Her mother pulled her close, eyes trembling. "No, child. The beast fears him." In the warlord's chamber, arguments turned to shouts. "This is a disaster," cried a reptilian general, his tail lashing in anger. "The balance of power is shifting before our eyes," another snarled. "We cannot allow humans to rise. They will become too dangerous." But an older voice spoke, rough and tired. "Perhaps they already are, down below." The beast lifted its head when guards approached with spears. Its growl rolled across the arena like thunder. The guards froze, their weapons trembling in their hands. The human gave no command, yet the beast defended him with unshakable loyalty. The message was clear: no one would touch the human without facing death. The crowd began to murmur in a new way, not with mockery, not with laughter, but with curiosity and unease. For the first time, humans were not seen as fragile. For the first time, aliens wondered if perhaps they were the fragile ones. The announcer, who once shouted with booming pride, now stuttered, "Witness the human who stands with the beast." His words lacked power. They sounded more like a warning than a celebration. The arena that once echoed with chants of "Beast, Beast," now fell into a strange silence. The silence was broken when an alien noble rose, his voice sharp. "This is not strength, this is corruption," he shouted. But another voice, softer yet stronger, answered from the crowd. "No, this is something greater, something we do not understand." The human finally stood, brushing sand from his hands. The beast rose with him, towering above, yet moving as if it were his shadow. The sight alone made the strongest soldiers in the arena step back. No chain, no whip, no cage held this creature anymore. It chose to stand beside a human, and that truth terrified them. High above, messages were already being sent across the stars. Empires wanted answers. Rulers demanded reports. The news would spread in hours, and soon the whole galaxy would know. A human had done what no alien ever could. The apex beast had bowed. Panic of leaders clashed with the awe of the people. Some wanted to silence the truth, erase it before it spread. Others wanted to understand, to learn what made humans different. But deep down, in every heart that watched, one seed had already been planted. The seed of fear, the seed of respect, the seed of change. The human placed one last hand on the beast's side. The monster let out a low sound, not of rage, but of loyalty. The crowd trembled, because they realized something. The beast was no longer their monster. It belonged to him, and as the human turned his calm eyes toward the crowd, every alien felt the same chill run down their spine. For the first time they understood. The true beast in the arena was not the creature, it was the human who had tamed it. Challenges and threats, the silence of the arena did not last long. Soon, voices of rage cut through the air, sharper than blades. Alien warlords, nobles, and generals rose from their golden seats, their eyes burning with fury. For them, the sight of the apex beast bowing to a human was not just shocking, it was an insult. It crushed their pride. It tore apart their belief that humans were weak. The first to speak was a reptilian lord, his scales glowing with heat as his anger boiled. "This is deception," he roared, his voice shaking the pillars of the arena. "No human has such power. This is trickery. This is forbidden technology." The crowd erupted again, some agreeing, some denying. But the human stood silent, calm as stone. Guards rushed forward with scanners, their machines humming as beams of light swept across the human. The screens glowed, and the results appeared for all to see. No weapons, no shields, no hidden devices. He carried nothing but himself. The warlord slammed his claws against the railing in frustration. "Then how?" he hissed. "How can he do this?" Another leader, tall and thin with glowing eyes, leaned forward. He must be destroyed now, before his kind spread this madness. But another alien, cloaked in silver, shook her head. "Destroyed," she whispered, "or studied." Crowds shifted again, whispers flowing like waves. Some shouted for the human's death. Others wanted him captured and tested. But a growing number stared in silence, their eyes filled not with hate, but with wonder. The beast growled low as the tension rose. Its body shifted, massive claws scraping the ground when a guard dared to step closer. The beast's roar shook the arena. The guard stumbled back, his weapon falling from his hands. The message was clear. No one would touch the human. The announcer tried to calm the storm, his voice trembling. "Leaders of the galaxy, please, order must remain." But his words were drowned by shouting. "This human is a threat to us all," screamed one. "He is a gift," whispered another, unheard. Finally, the human spoke, his voice quiet but carrying across the arena. "Where I come from, we do not rule animals with chains, we earn their trust." The words were simple, but they cut deeper than any weapon. The aliens stared, stunned, for no one had ever thought of the beast as something to trust. To them, it was only death, only destruction. Yet here was a human, treating it as a companion. The reptilian lord spat in rage. "Lies, clever lies, you twist words to hide your danger." But another leader, older and wiser, leaned back in his throne, his eyes sharp. "Perhaps he does not lie. Perhaps it is we who never understood." The warlords argued, their voices rising higher. Threats were thrown like daggers. Some promised war against humanity if they ever dared to spread this power. Others demanded the human be brought into their service, to use his gift for their armies. The arena was no longer a place of spectacle. It had become a battlefield of words and fear. The beast rose suddenly, towering above them all. Its growl rolled like thunder, silencing the chamber. Every eye turned to the creature, every heart pounded with terror. It moved closer to the human, its body pressing against him protectively. The message was clear. The beast had chosen its side, and it was not theirs. The human placed a hand on the monster's neck. Calm as always, he looked up at the crowd, at the leaders who shouted and cursed. And without raising his voice, he said, "You fear me because you do not understand. M.E. But what you should fear is what happens when your pride blinds you to truth." The words struck deep. Some leaders snarled, others looked away. But the people in the crowd, the merchants, the travelers, the common ones, felt something shift inside them. For the first time, they wondered if humans were not weak. For the first time, they wondered if perhaps their leaders were afraid of the wrong enemy. Threats continued to rise, some calling for the human's death, others for his capture, but one truth was already written in the hearts of all who watched. The galaxy had seen something it could never forget. The deadliest beast alive had chosen a human, and nothing could erase that memory. The leaders did not know it yet, but from this moment, their greatest challenge had begun, not against the human alone, but against the future that humanity represented. The beast protects the human. The arena was no longer just a place of spectacle. It had become a storm of anger and fear. Alien leaders shouted from their seats, their pride wounded, their authority shaking. They demanded the human be taken, captured or killed, but no one dared to move while the beast stood at his side. Finally, a warlord in crimson armor rose, his voice like thunder. "Guards, seize him now. Do not let a human shame us." His command was filled with fury, and soldiers with energy spears began to march forward. Their steps echoed in the sand, their weapons glowing bright. The crowd held its breath, waiting to see the impossible turn back into reality. The apex beast lifted its head, its eyes narrowing. The moment the first guard stepped closer, the beast released a roar so powerful the walls trembled. Sand exploded into the air, the sound ripping through the hearts of every living thing in the arena. The guards froze, their legs trembling. But the warlord screamed again, "Attack!" Now, obeying orders, the guards thrust their spears forward, energy crackling. But before a single weapon touched the human, the beast moved. Its massive body slammed into the ground, claws cutting through stone. One swipe of its paw shattered spears like fragile glass. The soldiers were thrown into the air, their screams echoing before they hit the walls. The crowd gasped. Some cried out in terror, others in awe. The beast stood tall above the human, its body a living wall. Every muscle ready, every fang bared. It would kill anyone who dared to approach. The warlords shouted louder. "This proves it. The human commands the beast. Kill them both before it is too late." But even as they shouted, none dared to descend into the arena. They could feel the truth. The beast no longer belonged to them. It belonged to the human. The human himself did not move. He placed a calm hand against the beast's side. Steadying it, the monster growled low, but the touch made it pause. Its rage focused, controlled. The crowd saw it clearly. Even the deadliest predator alive obeyed the human's hand. More guards entered, armored heavily, carrying plasma cannons. The sight of so many weapons made the crowd panic. This was no longer entertainment. It was war inside the arena. But the human lifted his hand once more. "No," he said quietly, his voice reaching even the highest seats. "You do not understand what you are doing." The guards ignored him, raising their cannons before they could fire. The beast lunged with terrifying speed. It was faster than their machines, faster than their aim. Its jaws snapped, tearing weapons apart like paper. One guard screamed as his cannon melted in his own hands. Others dropped their arms and fled. The people in the crowd began to shout, not in anger, but in defense. Stop the attack," some cried. "Can you not see? The beast protects him, not destroys him." The warlords tried to silence them, but the voices only grew louder. The human looked up at the leaders, his eyes calm but sharp. "You send soldiers to die for your pride, not for justice," he said. "Look at your own monster. It does not obey you, it obeys trust." The words pierced deeper than any blade. For the first time, some leaders lowered their eyes, not in respect, but in shame. The beast growled again, its body tense. It knew the danger was not over. It circled the human, claws digging into the sand, watching every movement from above. Every alien could see the truth written in its stance. It was not a prisoner. It was not a weapon. It was a protector, and it would die before letting harm reach its chosen human. The arena was chaos now. Some leaders ordered more weapons. Others demanded retreat. The people shouted over each other, fear and awe clashing like fire and ice. But all eyes returned again and again to the center of the pit, where one human stood untouched, and the galaxy's deadliest predator stood guard beside him. From this moment, No lie could erase the truth. The human had done the impossible. He had not just tamed the beast. He had turned it into a shield, a guardian, a companion, and the galaxy itself trembled at the thought of what this meant. The warlords raged, the guards cowered, the people whispered, but deep inside every alien heart, one realization began to take root. The beast had chosen, and in that choice, humanity had just gained a weapon no empire could control, a bond no technology could break, and a legend no one could deny. The beginning of a legend. The arena was broken, not in stone but in spirit. The warlords shouted, but their words no longer carried the same weight. The guards trembled, but none dared step forward again. And the crowd, once hungry for blood, now looked upon the human with wide, silent eyes. They had not seen a fight. They had seen a miracle. The apex beast stood proudly beside the human. Its claws dug into the sand, its massive body like a wall of living muscle. Every breath it took was a warning, every growl a promise. It would not bow to chains again. It would not return to cages. It had chosen its master, and that master was human. The human looked around, calm as ever. He did not raise his hands in triumph. He did not smile in arrogance. He simply stood, quiet, steady, as if none of this was strange. His eyes met those of the alien leaders, and in that silent gaze, they felt something worse than fear. They felt small. The announcer tried to speak, but his words broke. What could he say? What name could he give to what they had just witnessed? For generations, the apex beast was the symbol of death. Now it had become the symbol of humanity, and no one knew what that would mean for the galaxy. Whispers turned to shouts. "This changes everything," cried a noble. "We must prepare for war with humans," said a general. But in the crowd, voices rose in a different tone. "Perhaps humans are the allies we need," whispered a traitor. "They are not weak. They are strong in ways we never imagined." The human placed his hand gently on the beast's side. The monster lowered its head, letting out a deep rumble of loyalty. The sight alone burned itself into the memory of all who watched. This was no accident, no trick. It was the beginning of something greater than all of them. In the higher seats, a council leader whispered to his aide, "Send word across the stars, let them know what happened here." And so the message began to spread, from ship to ship, from world to world. The deadliest beast in the galaxy bowed to a human. Empires that once mocked humans began to take them seriously. Armies that once ignored them now feared what they might become, and common people across alien worlds whispered the same story again and again. A story of a fragile creature who walked into death and came out as a legend. The warlords raged, but they could not erase the truth. Every eye had seen it. Every heart had felt it. The beast had chosen, and in doing so, it had given humanity a place in the galaxy no army could take away. The human finally turned to leave. His steps slow, steady. The beast followed, each footstep shaking the ground. Together, they walked toward the gate, the arena still echoing with silence. No chains, number orders, no guards could stop them. The galaxy watched as the impossible became reality. As he reached the exit, the human paused. He turned his head just slightly, his eyes meeting the sea of aliens one last time. No words left his lips, but the silence spoke louder than any speech. He did not need to say he was strong. He did not need to say humans were different. The proof walked beside him, massive and loyal. When he and the beast vanished into the shadows of the gate, the crowd exhaled as if waking from a dream. Some wept, some trembled, some clenched their fists in anger, but none could deny what they had witnessed. The day the galaxy's deadliest predator became a human's companion. And so the legend began. Tales spread faster than light, changing with every retelling. Some said the human had controlled the beast with secret powers. Others said he had spoken to it in a language of the soul. But the truth remained simple. A human had tamed fear itself. From that day, the galaxy would never see humans the same way again. No longer weak, no longer overlooked, they were a mystery, a danger, a hope. And the memory of the arena burned into history like fire into stone. The beginning of a legend did not start with war. It did not start with blood. It started with a touch. A calm hand on the head of a monster. And that simple act would echo through the stars forever.